What if I told you there's one simple question that you can ask yourself to finally start understanding your emotions? And this applies whether you're someone who already feels a lot and really gets in touch with your emotions, or whether you're someone who gets quite stuck in their head and can struggle to really understand what they're actually feeling. And this question is really simple. You've heard it a million times before, but I'm going to frame it for you in a slightly different way and give you some practical ways that you can start using it to help you better understand your emotions. And so the question is, drum roll please, how do I feel? Now that's a very simple question, but it's so important. And in some of my recent therapy sessions, I've realized just how important it is. It's arguably probably the most cornerstone question of all of therapy, so I think it really warrants proper looking at. And why is it so important? Well, it's so important because how you feel, your feelings, drive everything that you do. Your feelings are the guides to your experience. They tell you what you do and don't like, what you might be feeling about something, what you're thinking about it. We like to think that we're so rational and logical, and our society really often overlooks the question of how do you feel? It's often more practical and logical and precise. But we're not like that. And if you look at any advertising, we're not like that. It's all colors, shapes, big simple words, feelings to get people to do things. Because that's how we are. We're driven by our feelings. And so becoming aware of your feelings in a way that isn't just getting lost in them, but rather creating an awareness of them. You see how there's a difference there? That is a real superpower if it's something that you can start to cultivate within yourself. So, how can asking yourself, how do I feel, help you better understand your emotions? Well, it does one key thing it creates awareness. Now, awareness is the building block, the biggest starting point of any healing work. It's very difficult to make any changes to anything if you're not actually aware of the space in which you're operating. And the reason awareness is so powerful is because it can allow you to create detachment. And detachment allows you to create a little bit of space between you and whatever it is that you're feeling or thinking. And within that space, you can more objectively observe what's going on in you and then start to accept, acknowledge, recognize that. And if you wish, start taking thoughts or actions, change how you're feeling or thinking about a situation. And so let me give you some practical ways that you can do this. The first and most obvious is check in with yourself a couple of times a day. Create some dedicated time slots. You can set calendar reminders or even little alarms just to pause, even for 10 seconds, and ask yourself, how do I feel? My therapist recommended this to me when I first started therapy. She'd always be asking me, what do you notice? And as someone who's naturally quite heady, well, I'm not naturally quite heady, I've been conditioned to be very heady. As someone who is conditioned to be very heady and needs to be in touch with my body and my feelings a little bit more, just creating a daily practice, literally 5 times a day, of dropping in, pausing, how do I feel? Helped dramatically. And even if you're someone who's not heady but actually rolls with their emotions and really gets into and feeling them, you probably have the opposite problem of getting too in touch with things such that you get swept up in them. And so the practice again of pausing and going, how do I feel? Can help you avoid getting sort of stuck and going down a rabbit hole of something that actually, if you pause, you can come back to yourself and not get washed away just because you're feeling an emotion. Emotions are really helpful and they are helpful guides, but that doesn't mean they're always the, I'm going to put this in quotation marks, right or best answer to a situation. They're just signs and signals. And by creating that awareness from pausing, you can then decide whether you want to follow that signal or not. The second tip is to ask yourself, how do I feel? when you're out with a friend or on a date or doing a particular activity. You can do this during it and after it. And creating this awareness of how you actually feel when you're truly with someone is remarkable. And I think it's a skill that's really undertaught in our society. Because again, how you feel about spending time, let's say you're on a date, you might become important to this person and get into a relationship with this person. You need to know how you feel about them. And the only way you're going to do that is by asking yourself, how do I feel? And then you'll be able to see, how do I really feel? Do I feel comfortable around this person? Do I feel free to be myself? Or am I clinging and tight and worried about how they might perceive me? Or do I feel like they're being cold and not really listening to or receiving me? That kind of information is really, really important. And then the third thing you can do, and I'm borrowing this idea from 12-step recovery work, is whenever you're looking back at a situation that you're trying to forgive yourself for, ask yourself how you felt at that particular moment. And so one thing I've found when doing this for myself, and I'm looking back at some things I'm really not proud of, and I ask myself, how did I feel? And I felt bad. I was scared. I was full of shame and fear and anxiety and anger. And when I'm able to step back now and look at myself and look at the actions I took from that place and understand how I felt, I actually get a lot of compassion for myself. Because yes, I took actions that I'm not proud of, but I was also in a really difficult place. And having the ability, having the awareness to be able to look back at something that you have done and realize, these are my actions. This is how I feel about it now. And this is how I felt about it then. And then joining it up can really start creating a lot of compassion within yourself. And you can even start applying that to other people if you like, although other people's feelings are their property, so don't get too lost in that. And then finally, it's all great to ask yourself this question, but how do you actually feel? Well, the secret trick that you get taught in therapy is the gateway to your feelings is the body. So when you pause and ask yourself, how do you feel? Go to your body. It's often helpful to start with your chest or your head. And you'll start feeling and working your way down. And they're really good places to start looking for your core feelings. And if you want the ability to start labeling those feelings, then Brene Brown has a great book called Atlas of the Heart, which looks stunning, but also actually starts listing loads of emotions, tens of different emotions, to give you the vocabulary and also the understanding of where that feeling will appear in your body and how it might feel there. And so to round off this video, I want to challenge you. I challenge you to ask yourself for the rest of the day 3 times, how do I feel? And just notice how you are. Because cultivating that practice and bringing that question along throughout the rest of your day, throughout the rest of your week, throughout the rest of your life, will create so much more self-awareness and prevent you from getting lost and overly tumbly into feelings, or it will bring you down from inside your head and back into your body. Because ultimately, feelings are the key drivers behind how we act. And so the ability to be in touch with them, but also maintain a distance between them, a detachment from that place of awareness, is such a powerful skill. And that is really how you start understanding and then ultimately feeling and accepting all of your emotions. So that's my video on a really simple way to understand your emotions, which is asking yourself how you feel. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I will see you again soon.